Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, you're going to get my thoughts on the Henry Ruggs situation. So recently, Josh Jacobs was on the Pivot podcast and talked about, how Ruggs wanted to get back into the NFL. I'm just going to give you my most honest thoughts on this, and then actually, a lot of stuff happened around the Raiders today and also yesterday, so we're just going to get into the latest around the silver and black. If you don't know what is happening right now around the latest around Ruggs and why we were talking about it again, it is because Ruggs does remain incarcerated at Casa Grande Transitional Housing, and he is eligible for his earliest parole August 5th, 2026. Josh Jacobs said that Ruggs is staying in shape and is in hopes to return to the NFL. I've had a lot of Raiders fans ask me my questions regarding Henry Ruggs and whether or not he should come back to the NFL, whether or not that the Raiders would end up bringing him back. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts here, but first, this is what Josh Jacobs had to say on Ruggs. Keeping up with him and hearing him talk, it brings me spirits because he's always positive. He's positive about everything. He's training, they let him train and things like that, so I'm like, when you come out, man, I don't know if you will get a chance. I've been talking to some people for him. They've been saying a couple of teams are willing to give him a chance. I'm like, when you get that chance, man, you better not ever don't look back and prove to yourself and prove to everybody that one decision don't define you, who you are as a man. I respect Josh Jacobs for honestly willing to speak up, because I think anytime you talk about a situation that is going to rub people the wrong way, no matter how you do it, it's not easy to do, but you also got to remember, Ruggs and Jacobs were teammates back in college, and the relationships you build in the NFL, I think, are a lot different than the relationships that you build in college. I mean, you are going to battle with those guys every single day, especially with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nick Saban did a great job there building a family atmosphere, so I know Jacobs was very close to Ruggs. I know Ruggs was very close to a lot of the Raiders players. So here's going to be my statement and my honest thoughts on the Henry Ruggs situation. If the Tintor family has forgiven him in regards to Ruggs and is fine with him, then who am I to say he shouldn't be allowed in the NFL? Personally, I will never root for somebody that drove 156 miles an hour and a 45 after 17 drinks. It's now been updated, the report is there were 20 drinks on the tab for Henry Ruggs, and I don't know if he drank all of those. But at the end of the day, a young woman passed away and her dog burned alive in a vehicle. I hope that he is able to donate some of his checks to the Tintor family, and I hope that he's able to donate some of those checks to a charity that he gets a choice of. I just know that the Raiders aren't going to be the team that bring back Henry Ruggs. You got to tip your cap to Mark Davis because he ended up going to the funeral, and I don't know if a lot of NFL owners would have taken time out of their day to go to the funeral of Tina Tintor and her dog Max. But I'm just going to leave it like that. I don't need anybody. And if you're watching this show, if you go down in the comments and you're acting like a jerk, shame on you. Let's just have a normal conversation, because at the end of the day, when we talk about Henry Ruggs, we're only talking about Ruggs. And I kind of get upset that we don't still remember Tina Tintor and her dog Max. So to Tina, to her dog Max, give a huge shout out to my man Brandon Jasper. I miss him a lot. But RIP's down below, because I don't really know what's going to happen with the Ruggs situation. But if it was up to me, and I'm telling you, I am never, ever going to root for Henry Ruggs. And I know people deserve a second chance, but I think there's a big difference between a second chance and being able to play in the NFL again. I think not spending your entire life in prison is a second chance. But if the Tintor family has forgiven him, because I think that's what we got to do as human beings, we got to be able to forgive people. And if the Tintor family has forgiven Henry Ruggs, then who am I to say that he doesn't deserve another shot in the NFL? Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, let's get into the latest news and rumors around the silver and black that I would say if you're a Raiders fan and you haven't seen this in the last 24 hours, that's why you should hit that subscribe button to the show, because I want to be able to keep you guys up to date. And this show, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Mitch is a reporter. I'm not a reporter. I know the show's called The Raiders Report, but you also got to remember, back in 2018 when we just started making YouTube videos, I was a normal person just like all of y'all that wanted to be able to make YouTube videos, and now we got this opportunity. But I'm not a reporter. I'm somebody that gives my honest opinions on a show, and if you're looking for somebody that's what he's going to do every single day, that's why you should subscribe. That's why you should turn those notifications on, and I want you to click all, because if the Raiders do something, we're going to make a video about it, and if it's really, really big news, we go live because I like to interact with the nation. Let's go to the Raiders news that happened today. The Raiders went out and they signed a new international pathway program player. And this one technically didn't happen today. It happened yesterday. If you don't know who it is Laki Tasi, and he's 21 years old. He signed through the NFL's international pathway program, which, if you don't know, the Raiders also then had to move on from David Agoa, who was the other international pathway program player. Former rugby player, Samoan descent, so I know my guy Samoan Raiders probably super hyped up about it. From Australia, he played for the Ashgrove GPS Rugby Club, a Queensland Premier Rugby Union. I'll tell you this right now. When you are as big as what Tasi is, and you move as well as he does, I bet you he was scaring a lot of people out on that rugby field, no doubt about it. But when I talk about the Raiders' needs, and when you talk about what this team is looking for, I'm not going to lie to you. I actually heard a lot of good stuff about David Agoa, and I heard that he was, trending in the right direction. So for the Raiders to move on from Agoa and to get Tasi tells me that they actually like this guy a little bit more than what people think, because, when I say international pathway program, I think a lot of people roll their eyes. You might be surprised on how impactful some of these players are. I mean, look at Jakob Johnson. He was our old fullback a few years ago. He was a part of that international pathway program player. You can find good stars, and rugby players are tough SOBs. And I think that's one of the things that this team's trying to add, as many tough SOBs to the roster as they can. Let's go to another thing that happened here around the silver and black. The Raiders hired an assistant GM, and I put out a video on YouTube yesterday on both of these moves that ended up happening. And again, if you ended up missing it, it's all good. But the Raiders, they ended up hiring Broncos Director of College Scouting, Brian Stark, as their new assistant GM, and he's got some big shoes to fill in Champ Kelly. He was 13 years with the Denver Broncos. He was 8 years holding the position that he was holding, the Director of College Scouting. But now, sitting here, you got to go, well, why did this happen? You always got to look at what the connection is, what the relationship is, because I've said it probably every show since the Raiders have hired John Spytek and Pete Carroll. Relationships matter. And Brian Stark worked with John Spytek in 2013, 2014, and in 2015, back with their time together in Denver. And for anybody who's like, Mitch, what do you think about this hire? The Broncos, since that time, since he's been a part of that organization, have been one of the best teams finding talent in the drafts. So now you steal somebody away from your AFC West rival, you bring him into the silver and black with his buddy John Spytek. Honestly, it's a great hire. We got some more Raiders news coming up here in just a moment. If you're looking for an Ashton Jeanty jersey, you can go to chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys, or you go to chatsports.com/Jeanty, whatever one you're looking for. I will say this, if you already have a Jeanty jersey, like one of our earlier watchers here on our live show, and you're like, you know what, man, I need something else, then you can go to chatsports.com/Raider Rob, the Barbasol guy. I got you. So to everybody out there, if you want to help Jeanty be the number one selling jersey, I want to get him past Shador. I want to get him past Cam Ward. I want to get him past Travis Hunter. Go to chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys, or you go to chatsports.com/Jeanty. Sorry, those links are available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. If you also want to participate in our jersey raffle for the month of May, we're going to give away a Jeanty jersey Friday, May 30th. And if you're watching live, every $5 super chat that we get in the month of May, you're going to be entered in for a chance to win. But I get it. A lot of people are busy. If you don't have the opportunity to watch us live, send in the $5 super thanks. You will also be entered in. If you ask Mitch, if I send in 20 $5 super thanks, am I in? Yeah, 20 times. That's how it works. Let's go to some more Raiders news here that I got to keep the nation up on. We hired an assistant director of college scouting, and this is typically the time of the year where a lot of these moves do end up happening. And when you see a move go down, I always try to do my best to keep you guys up to date. So this is Ben Chester, and he is the team's assistant director of pro scouting after serving with the team as their pro scout since 2014, so they gave him a little bit of a bump. I saw some people asking me on Twitter, like, is this normal for teams to, kind of give, not raises, but give a promotion to somebody right after the NFL draft? And the answer to that is usually yes. So Jonathan Stiegel, who served as a national scout with the Jets last year, is headed to the Raiders as their assistant director of college scouting. Highly respected by his peers, Stiegel has won 3 Bart List Awards for scouting excellence as voted on by active NFL scouts. A true scouting lifer, he has also evaluated for the Browns, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and for the Bears. Let's keep it moving here on the show. The Raiders also invited a running back to camp, and, they've been kind of interesting they have 2 running backs right now that they invited to camp, and Kayvon Britton is the latest one. They officially asked him to join camp on April 27th, is what I was told. Now, I am just getting information on it today, so that's why it's on the show today. But Britton finished 3rd for the Walter Payton Award in 2025. What's interesting about that is the Raiders, Tommy Millott, won the Walter Payton Award for Best Player in FCS. They also drafted Cam Miller, who finished 2nd in the award. So you're telling me all 3 players that had the opportunity to win the Walter Payton Award, essentially the Heisman in the FCS, could also be Raiders. Pretty wild. And when you look at his numbers the past 3 years, 722 carries, 4,168 yards, 50 touchdowns. This is a small school kid, really short running back, 5'7", 215. Dude is a bowling ball. If anybody's ever met Rebel Montana, imagine Rebel Montana with no fat on him running between tackles, because he's 5'7", 215. Rebel, I got to be pretty damn close there. But 340 carries last year, almost 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns. The Raiders want physical backs, and they keep on looking for physical backs. I can't wait to see Rebel's comment on that one. He's probably going to be like, go home, Mitch. I'm a Marsh fan now. Let's go to the final thing that happened today around the silver and black. And the Raiders, they went ahead and they signed a wide receiver. And again, anytime news happens, I do my best to keep you guys up to date. But the Raiders, they went out and they signed Collin Johnson. And as he stands, I should say, Johnson is the tallest wide receiver in the National Football League at 6'6", 222 pounds. Hasn't really done anything in the NFL. I honestly know him a little bit more just from his time with the Texas Longhorns. Despite there not being any overlap with Johnson and Steve Sarkisian with Texas, we still know that sometimes coaching overlaps and connections do run pretty deep. But for a guy like Johnson, long, lanky, athletic wide receiver, doesn't do really anything all that great in terms of a route tree. But go back and look at what the Raiders did this offseason. Draft, UDFA especially. They look for players with high character traits. They look for high character players, and they looked for dudes that were long, lanky, and athletic. Collin Johnson fits all of those things. He was also a former captain at the University of Texas. I appreciate all y'all that tuned in to today's show, and if you made it this far in the show, this is where I'm going to challenge my real ones out there. I already know, because I talked about Henry Ruggs to start this video, you're going to get a lot of, I'm just going to be transparent, very bad comments down below. There's going to be a lot of disagreeing in the comment section. All I ask is this: let's be adults. Let's be humans. Imagine you're walking into our house here at the Raiders Report. Treat everybody with respect, because I want to be able to talk about everything, because in my opinion, that's what family does. You talk about everything, even if it's hard topics to be able to talk about. I appreciate everyone that asked me about my opinion in this Henry Ruggs situation, and I will leave it with how I said this earlier. If the Tintor family has forgiven Henry Ruggs, then who am I to say that he doesn't deserve a shot in the NFL?